let me just lay this out really simply. First of all, no Tea Party groups, to the best of my knowledge, were inhibited from starting. I have started nonprofit corporations, two of them, a school and a community for abused kids. When you apply for tax-exempt status, the states grant that status immediately as soon as you incorporate in the state, because you always incorporate in a state. And you incorporate as a not-for-profit, and the state says, okay, cool, you're not for profit. Now apply to the IRS for 501c3 or 501c4 status, or any one of the 501c, the nonprofit varieties. You then apply to the IRS for status, and in our case, it took us almost a year to get the approval back. During that time, you're doing business. You're accepting donations. You're just telling people this is provisionally tax deductible to you if you make a donation to us. We're quite sure it probably will be, but there's a possibility it won't be, and we just have to inform you of that if the IRS turns down our application. But, nobody got stopped, number one. Number two, just think about this for a minute. You're working in Cincinnati in the office where they approve nonprofit applications. And the IRS tax code says very clearly that 501c status, C3, C4 status, 501 status, 501c, this is the 501 parentheses C is the chapter of the tax code, right? Describes that sentence or paragraph of the tax code. That status is provisional, it requires you to be a social welfare organization. Now, in the actual law itself, you must be exclusively a social welfare organization. The way that the IRS cuts slack to people, they say you must be primarily. And so Karl Rove says, well, 49% of our stuff is going to politicking, 51% is going to social welfare, whatever that means. Just think about this for a minute. Your job is to weed out the social welfare people from the political hacks who are trying to use nonprofit as a front to shield donors. Liberal groups are typically all about feeding the hungry, housing the homeless, getting food and getting medicine and medications to those who don't have them, national health care, whatever it may be, improving medicine, improving education, empowering workers so people have a decent standard of living, saving Social Security and the rest of the social safety net. These, I would argue, are pretty indisputably all social welfare issues. So if you're the IRS person whose job it is to determine whether or not my organization, which is applying, is primarily involved in social welfare work, and I say, I'm all about making sure that hungry people get food and that more kids can go to school, I would guess that you would say, okay, that's social welfare. Now, what if I come to you and I say, I've got this group, and our main mission in life is to cut taxes on billionaires and to deregulate, to reduce government regulation on corporations so that the Koch brothers' paper factories can spill more poison into the water and that their oil refineries can put more poison into the air. That's what we're all about. Smaller government, less regulation, and lower taxes on rich people. If your job as an IRS employee was to determine whether or not the goals of my organization comported with social welfare, what would you say? I'd say, I don't think so. I don't think that defending, low taxes for billionaires and high levels of pollution constitutes social welfare. So when 3,800 new Tea Party groups suddenly explode in my inbox, many of them funded by, billionaires or just local people deluded by billionaires, I would say, this progress group over here, this progressive group over here that's overtly all about feeding hungry people, I think they're doing social welfare work. We'll give them 501c3 status or C4 status. This Tea Party group here, They want to cut government regulations. In other words, they want to allow more pollution in our air. And they want to cut taxes on Mitt Romney and Paris Hilton. I don't see where that's social welfare. So we're going to at least look over their application a little more thoroughly to make sure that they're really all about social welfare. And I, to this day, can't figure out how a Tea Party person can say, and maybe one of you who is a Tea Party person can call and tell me, what part of social welfare are you all about? I always figured that social welfare and liberal were interchangeable terms. And that ignoring social welfare and being concerned more about taxes and regulations and, I suppose you could argue that being anti-abortion is social welfare, or being anti-birth control is social welfare, or, being pro-church is social welfare. But the fact of the matter is that, we decided sometime back, a few generations back, that there were some things that were so important to us that we all would pay. We would subsidize them. We would pay for the commons for them. We would pay for their police protection. We'd pay for their fire protection. We'd pay for the education of their children. We would pay for all that stuff. We would grant them tax-exempt status. We decided that hospitals, schools, churches, communities for abused children, things like that, those were so important to us as a society that we would collectively subsidize them. Do we really believe that a group that is committed to reducing taxes on billionaires is so important to us that we need to subsidize it with our tax dollars? Really?
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
This is the real IRS scandal, that they're not enforcing the actual laws at stand. Karl Rove, social welfare, they shouldn't be in the same sentence.